Well, I left Egypt 3 times, I think, because we were in Cairo waiting to get the ship to South Africa. So what happens, we were in Cyprus, so I was 6 years old, and the government said, get out, the Germans are coming. So we all get in within 24 hours, we were all shipped and flown to Cairo, and then we were going to South Africa to live there until the whole thing was over. So we came out double time, and then my mother discovered, she got so quickly, but she hadn't sorted the things out on the farm. She said, well, I better go back to Cyprus. So I went down to the farm, Margot, and this guy, Yakomi, who was a Muslim, and he said, well, look, we're gone now. Here's the key. You can do whatever you like. You're in charge of the whole setup. Gave it to a Muslim. So they're honest people, because if the Muslims do something, they have their arms chopped off. So anyway, so Yakomi was in charge. Then she went back to Nicosia. Nicosia is the capital of Cyprus, it was anyway. And he said, okay, he went to the airport. And the guy in the airport said, well, Mrs. Grice, sorry, no airplane. You can't go back to Egypt. What do you mean I can't go back to Egypt? You just can't go back to Egypt. There's no airplane, because this is war. And so she began crying and all the rest of it. You know, women have to do that. And there happened to be a guy passing by. He said, what's wrong, lady? She said, well, I want to get to Cairo. He said, no problem. I have a monoplane. Tomorrow, come to the airport at the gate. And they put a carpet on the floor. They wrapped my mother up in a carpet. And they have 2 guys, so you couldn't see. They carried the carpet to the airplane, put the carpet on the airplane, and that was it. And so they had a monoplane flying over to Cairo. And of course the guy says, well, when they get to Cairo, they said, well, I can't do much now. You get out. How you get out of the airport, that's your problem. So my mother got out, she just walked through it. So anyway, we went down the Red Sea. We got down to, went down to Durban, and nearby they had free accommodation for the mothers and children, because the government paid for everything. So, but the point is, we were 5 kids in a hotel, so we were rampaging around, and there was all sorts of chaos. So my mother said, okay, I'm not going to stay here with these kids. She went to Johannesburg, rented a flat or a kind of small place, got a Zulu woman to look after the kids, and she went to work, which was fairly enterprising. Well, our subject is South Africa, as I suppose it is. Well, anyway, she told me on one occasion, she was going home late at night, and she heard padding behind her. She looked back, there was a black guy following her. And then the black guy said, take it easy, lady. You shouldn't be out late at night. I'll accompany you to your home, and then bye-bye. So he took her up. And we had a Zulu lady who used to look after us, or our sisters or somebody. Anyway, she was in her. And because at the time we had this apartheid, the black-white business, you know. It was okay to have a black woman servant, but you couldn't have a man. But this woman's boyfriend came to stay. They were reported, so it was reported that this English woman has a black man in her house. So she was hauled up, taken to court. Court. It was in the court, and they said, what have you got? You're breaking the law. And she said, but anyway, she stood her ground. She said, well, what could I do? This is a boyfriend. But anyway, just by the way, and all the other white women are saying, she said he's a good guy, and the Zulu. So there was a friend here talking about, I have a sister called Lucy. This Zulu used to go to the market. So one arm she had a black baby, black Zulu, and the other arm you had a white, blonde, blue-eyed. They used to go to the market, you know, one of the features to life there. But anyway, we were there for short because it was the Boer, and by just a sort of finale, my brother Daniel was a businessman, and he was thinking of going. He went down to Cyprus. This is late, of course, and he was on one of these swimming pools, and these black people. This is before he became independent, but he could see in the eyes of these black people, what are you English people doing here? Where are you yourselves? When are you going to go home? You know. So he said, well, I'm not doing business in Cyprus, in South Africa. So you've got this problem in South Africa. What do you do? Well, it's the same everywhere in the world. So when people in Taiwan, they talk about, people say, oh, don't you realize this? Taiwan is China. China is Taiwan. The whole world, every country, we just said, England, Scotland, they're at each other's throats. England and the South Africans, they were at each other's throats. The Spaniards and the French. Every country has. I'm just saying for the local market here. Every country has this green and blue problem. So we shouldn't get all that excited, because it's natural. People like to live with their own kind of people, and if you happen to come from mainland China, you like to be with mainland China. If you happen to come to town, there's no problem out there. Why not? The first time I came to China, I was in Hong Kong, and I was in the bishop's place, and I noticed all the tables. There was one table, all the Italian priests, and the other table were all the Chinese priests. They say, "Oh, wow, they're mixing it." Well, because they're speaking Italian. The Italians like to be listening. You don't have golden eagles having breakfast with sparrows. The golden eagles live there and the sparrows live there. There's nothing wrong about it. But anyway, in South Africa, so after another 2, we come back, and then I fly an airplane to Libya.
No, thank you.